Okay, good evening, everyone. We're starting a little late, and I apologize. There's always a little bit of a transition between meetings. Thank you to Brattleboro folks for this delicious 6:30 right now. It took us 9 minutes to transition. Thank you for a really good meal, and the cookies are quite stunning, so feel free to dig in, folks. And I think there's cheese and crackers that might still be wrapped up in the back if you feel like something savory.
The food's actually from Gilbert.
Oh, thank you to Gilbert. So we have a quorum tonight, is that correct? We're good? All right. So we haven't met since the start of the year. Happy New Year, everyone. We have several things to talk about, perhaps not in much depth. Before we get into inviting folks to speak from the public, I'm going to ask Amy, can you just quickly, Amy and Christina, is there anything happening in Dummerston, or is there a petition being floated around right now?
Yes, there is a petition going around, I don't know the status.
Okay.
We have not met as a board.
Okay, I just
We
wanted to
met
be
as a board the
updated.
night of the 13th, but we have not met as a board since then.
Okay. All right, guys, we're going to open it to public comment, and then we tend to do public comment at the beginning, at the end. The end tends to be much shorter because we are then tight for time. Then we're going to approve the minutes, and then talk through the work session items, and then hopefully adjourn early. So let's go ahead. So Amy Wall, who's our clerk, has passed around a piece of paper. I see several of you have not been to this meeting before, but you're probably used to how these things work. Please put your name down as it passes and the town you're from. And when you speak in either one of the public comment sections, please say your name and what town you're from at that point as well. All right, who would like to speak? Okay, just one person? Okay, go ahead.
Me?
Yeah.
Am I the one person? Okay.
Yeah.
Jody Normandeau from Dummerston. The first thing I'd like to say is that at your December 1st meeting, I had a list of 10 more people who attended the Dummerston Forum on November 15th, and I gave that list to Amy, and I asked that it be added to the minutes of the meeting for the November 15th, and I noticed that they have not been added, and I would like to see them added, because there was at least 10 other people that weren't on there.
Okay, but they didn't put their name on the list?
No, they didn't, because a lot of people don't get, when the things go around and chairs are uneven and everything, people don't get the list. And even after the meeting, I didn't get the list, and I went up to Amy after the meeting and gave her a few names then, but then there were other people afterwards.
Okay,
So I'd like to see that added.
When we approved the minutes,
Yeah.
the group decided that we would go with the list that was.
the official list.
Yeah.
Okay.
sent in.
All right, so that's already, this happened at the last meeting that I didn't attend. Okay. So tonight, guys, thank you, Jerry.
Well, I'd like it to be added because they were there, and Dummerston had a huge turnout as opposed to other towns, and I would like it to represent what Dummerston had there. Thank you. And the other thing that I have is, I don't know whether it's on your agenda tonight or not, but the other thing that I have is, I don't have privy to your warrants, but I would really like to have it made public as to how much money has been spent on the study committee so far, from September 15 up until now. I know that you've had a lot of money spent on the lawyer. I know there's been brochures sent out and publicized and mailings done to everybody in all the towns for the Vernon issue. I know there's food at every one of these that it's costing you, and there are all kinds of other things. So if you can't come up with a figure for me, I'd like to have access to the warrants, and I can go through the warrants and find out exactly how much is being spent.
Okay, thank you. So we have, this is the first time you're asking me for all those numbers. We did review numbers a couple of months ago with the lawyer numbers with Chris Leopold, but we can certainly do that again. These numbers would be in the WSESU budget, so that committee, that board approves those. Okay.
Hi, I'm Andy Davis from Brattleboro. I was just curious if you're going to talk about tonight some of the next steps in response to the vote on December 13th. Is that part of what you're going to be discussing tonight, and how that affects where this process is going?
Yeah, I think we have several things to talk about. I'm sure that we won't flush it out perhaps as much as you might be interested in hearing at this point. But I was not at the last meeting, so I don't know exactly what you guys discussed, and I did not watch the video. But I do know that some things were discussed then. We'll touch base on some of those things now, and then over the next 2 or 3 more meetings, we will no doubt talk in more depth. What specifically
My
are you interested
one
in?
comment would be that it was a little discouraging seeing such a tiny number of Brattleboro voters participate in that. And I know you can't make people come, but there is a lot of misunderstanding, discouragement about not being able to understand this. A lot of people, I would say, veering away from it because they don't think they will be able to understand it. They're hearing things that were initially promised in Act 46, like saving tax money, that are now being backed away from, that's contributing, I think, to that malaise. And the tiny, I mean, I think if we get 50% of the people voting, we've come to think that's a great number. I don't know if anyone is proud of 3% on something that's really changing the way our culture works here with regard to something as important as our children's education. And I think it's like the canary in the coal mine. That election was a bit like a dead canary. And it says there's something about this process that's not engaging people, that's not convincing people. And I think it's connected to the vote in Dummerston, where people felt like that would maybe be nothing against the people of Vernon, but my own interpretation of that is that was the only lever to slow this process down. And if your car's careening toward a cliff, you use the parking brake even if you're not supposed to, okay? Because people are feeling like we should maybe take some more time to engage some more people. There's very few teachers that come to these meetings. And I think that teachers could be heard from on this. It's going to affect, I'm a teacher, and it's going to affect teachers. But it doesn't feel like all the stakeholders are engaged at this point. So that's my comment, and I hope you will have a discussion about how the vote last month is going to affect how you move forward.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. I can just also touch on a couple of things. That was a very unfortunate time for a vote. We certainly would not have chosen that time. We were locked in due to statute and the Vernon vote. The other time we've been, closer to December 25th, which of course, Hanukkah and Christmas were coming up. So we didn't have options. So that was highly unfortunate. And again, none of us would have chosen that vote date.
And then we also looked at having it on the general election, but we got significant pushback from town clerks because that would just add to, the workload on that day. And we had missed the timeline for doing the tabulated voting, so it didn't work out.
And maybe to add to that too, I think the intention way early on, because we've been meeting for over a year now, was that we would be at a point at an important election where there would be a significant turnout to be able to have this vote at a time when more people could be engaged in the process. And I think the fact that we went on to the point where we were so late we could not get on that ballot, that really hurt us. And then it meant that we ended up where we were in December.
So, but community communication and education has been something we've been talking about since day one, and we continue to talk about it, and it's actually on the agenda tonight to talk more about that. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into the,
And Andy, the first part of what you said, where are you here? That we backed off of saying that the tax savings that we were not.
Not you. I'm saying the statewide discussion of Act 46 has completely pulled back from promising any savings. I'm not about your group.
Still do.
It's as part of the statewide conversation has been to draw back from that.
So I just wanted to point out our conversation had to pull back from that.
and I think Andy Davis touched on several things that I did not respond to as chair. Many of your concerns or questions we could spend an hour or two talking about. So let's move on. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Second. Discussion.
Discussion?
Who seconded?
I think it was,
Thank you.
Did it say that Richard was there as well? You weren't there,
I
were
was
you?
not there.
Okay.
And I think it says that he was there.
Yep.
I was not there either.
Yes, you were not there, you were
But
Xed
they
out.
said it was different.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Abstentions from three of us abstaining? Oh, you don't vote, sorry. Okay. So have all of the first thing on our agenda is to review the local board comments that we sent off to the boards 2 or 3 meetings ago, maybe 2. Have all of the, I know Putney has been able to look at those. Guilford? Okay. Okay, can we take the time to review those now? Ron, can you take us through those?
Yep. On the agenda, it's listed as Article 7, Section D. On page 7 of the...
Could you speak up, Ron, please?
It's on page 7 of the study committee report, and it is related to school closures. So there was a paragraph added. The unified board will thoroughly analyze the full impact of the community, financial implications of the change, including the cost savings, the impact on staff in that facility, and transportation costs to send current students to another location if applicable. The unified board will weigh the benefits of a school presence in a community with the gains. The unified board will thoroughly review the equity to be gained in the decision, ensuring that the affected students would gain from the move in educational opportunities. Input from the town affected will be formally solicited and shared publicly. So that's added to the section on school closures that indicate that there will be no school closure within the first 5 years of the supervisory district. It would require a 3/4 vote of the full membership of the board of directors, and there'd be a number of at least 4 public hearings. At least 2 of those public hearings will be held in the community which the school is located if it's being considered to be closed. So that was the language.
So I'm going to go around, start with Guilford. Any comments to share about that from your board? Putney, do you want to start with Putney?
I think Putney hadn't realized the same question that came up among this group, which was that we thought this was there to begin with.
Yeah, well, it was originally,
And then it was
took it out and
appendix,
it's
and then it
back.
was
That's
lost.
why it's going to get back.
And I think all of us really appreciated the move out of the appendix back into the body of the document. That was something that I think.
Brattleboro and UHS?
BUHS didn't really have any.
Didn't have it?
No.
Brattleboro?
No.
Good. Dummerston?
There were some things that came up. The board felt that, some members of the board felt that they wondered about how the factors would be weighted, what procedural details. They wondered about the transportation and if time, the transportation time would be considered as well. There was questions about input from the town, who and how and when that all happened.
I think one of the questions was about what does it mean to thoroughly analyze and how was information going to be solicited? And I think in a previous iteration, we had talked about leadership councils, which would be sort of the conduit to the school being one source of formal solicitation of information. It kind of would make sense. And then as well as the select board, perhaps. So to maybe strengthen the language a little bit, to add something in that would, because I think that's what we're all thinking. And it's not really tying somebody's hands procedurally to say, thoroughly, and I think we had talked about surveys in a previous iteration as well. And so those are 3 ways that I think as opposed to, what does formally mean to somebody and what does thoroughly mean to somebody, that maybe we could strengthen the articles a little bit by saying the select board would be consulted, the leadership council would be consulted, and other stakeholders perhaps.
I think saying that would in no way diminish or change the articles, in the sense that that would not have to go back to the other boards. I think we would all collectively agree with that. Is that correct?
I think the only concern I had with doing that, and I'm wearing my Act 46 Study Committee hat member,
Right.
Not my Dummerston Board hat member, or Dummerston member hat, is that we're locking people in to do specific things. And I personally like the relative ambiguity. It allows more flexibility. And I also emphasize to the Dummerston Board that, procedurally, this would be defined by the potential unified board.
Right, so I'll bring us back, I'll remind us that we've had this exact conversation, and that's the reason why we put these things in the back rather than in the front, because we were concerned about that. Jill, you probably want to chime in. Yeah, you good?
Good, I'm gonna eat.
So, what do you guys want to do?
Well, I mean, I know that this part of it was in the appendix and it got moved out of the appendix.
The whole section was.
Right, but maybe there's a way to put suggestions on how to get input into an appendix as opposed to putting it into the body of the situation. Because I think one of the things that I thought about was, as we were all just talking, was a number of years back it was talk about having a mayor in Brattleboro. But if it says that it has to go in front of the select board, if we lost that in as a way that it has to happen, and then there's not a select board anymore in one of those, whether it's in Brattleboro, because Brattleboro goes to a mayoral system, or whatever reason there's no select board, then that unified board would automatically be in violation of the agreements because they couldn't do something because something changed.
Right.
So I would say that maybe we could put some suggestions as to things to do, like going to the select board, doing those things in some sort of an appendix to it, as opposed to putting it in the body of it and locking it in the future board.
We can also, just to get it, I really appreciate that comment. One of the ways to get it specific, rather than being so specific, we could say something to the effect of the unified board, when it talks about weigh the benefits before that, something the unified board in consultation with community organizations or community,
I like that.
Yeah.
something that would cover a lot of different bases and still give direction to the unified board that they have to take into consideration other community members, not just folks in the school, but also.
As usual, Richard, you're the wordsmith.
He's very good.
You drafted that, the things that have come up is community input like the select board, parents, community leadership councils.
Right now.
So,
So if you don't want to say select board, you could say community leadership,
Community leadership. Yeah.
And community governance.
community government.
Yeah.
so is that good? Are we happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what,
Can
can we just say input, tell me to change input from the town affected will be formally solicited and shared publicly. Where is this going? And what exactly is the
It
word?
could be after the unified board, that second sentence in the italicized version.
Yep.
The unified board will, after consultation
Okay,
with relevant
Yep.
community
Stakeholders.
stakeholders, the unified board will weigh the benefits of the school's presence in the community
Okay.
with the kids. Does that get enough of it?
yep.
I see, Jody, you have your hand up. I'm not going to recognize you right now. I think we're going to go through all of these, and then we'll have a quick opening up to everyone at that time, because we're going to go through 3 or 4 of these. Okay. Go ahead.
Next is Article 8 and 9. On page
Does everyone on the committee have access to these docs right now? You know them?
Yeah.
Create a song.
So the big change on Article 8 was that Wyndham Southeast District Board of Directors. would be
Ron,
comprised-
maybe if you stood up, we could hear better. I know one person's already left because she said she was sitting in the front row and couldn't hear, so.
So, the Wyndham Southeast Unified Union District Board of Directors will be comprised of 9 school directors. 7 members will be elected by and from the electorate of individual towns based on proportional representation. 2 members will be elected at large from the combined electorate of the former district. So that was a change. Everybody, I think, was pleased with the idea that now you'd be electing people from your own town, and just 2 would be at large. So the 4 school directors are designated to be held eligible from Brattleboro. 1 school director is designated to be held each of the following communities: Dummerston, Guilford, and Putney. 2 of the school directors, as designated at large, may be held by eligible residents at any of the above referenced towns.
Guilford? Thank you, Ron. Ms. Guilford, have you
Number, please,
Putney?
I think in Putney, we paused for a minute on the fact that we kind of liked the fact within the previous model when there were 3 at large, but the benefits of having direct vote for the person from the town outweigh that, so we were very happy with this.
Brattleboro?
We're good with whatever you guys want.
Just say, keep saying that. Dummerston?
Delightfully, happily surprised.
Bravo.
About the high school, any feedback there?
Yeah, we were the same with Brattleboro, we were good with it.
Okay.
Everybody else is.
So 9 just did confirm that, what I just said, because it has the terms, which is a breakdown of the 4 years. So I don't know.
Do we need to go
There was one other comment on that, which even though it wasn't really.
on the second section?
On Article 9 on the.
Okay, do you guys have anything on Article, we're good on Article 9?
It says that the Leadership Council will appoint a staff member, and a member of our board felt that it would be more empowering. Sorry?
That's in the item.
Yeah, it's in 15.
Oh, it's in 15, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right, yeah,
So 9 just reflects.
Okay,
8.
yeah.
Okay. And then the last one was Article 15. And, so that starts on page 9. There's nothing new there in terms of the local advocacy through school-based leadership councils. Then on page 10, it's got the bulleted list of things that the leadership council will provide input on. And then in the next paragraph, the change is leadership council shall include 1 staff member nominated by the staff and appointed by the district board chair. So that's good. The fact that the staff person will be not.
It's not in here.
That's not new, it's only the
Not in
italicized. It's that one sentence.
But that's actually not, what you just read is not in the December 1st version, so
Well,
that may have been added.
it's in the December 15th version.
Okay.
So I'm going by change. Then I'll get to the italicized section. So that's new.
So read that again.
so is that the one new thing, Ron?
Well, it's 2 new things.
Okay,
So this came from the discussion in Dummerston that said, why don't we have the staff member nominated by the staff as opposed to from the board? Made sense, so I put that in.
Could you read it?
okay, so,
Leadership Council shall include 1 staff member nominated by the staff and appointed by the district board chair. Okay?
so this is new, and you have not talked to your boards about this, although Dummerston discussed it. Do you feel comfortable that your board would? Yeah, I would say that our board would, actually, we did touch base on this. We have at some point
At
in the
some
last
point,
year
but
and a
not-
half.
not-
And we thought, yeah, I don't think we need to bring this
No.
to our board, I think, okay?
We're good.
We're good.
And you guys are good?
Then the other change was in italicized in the middle of page 10, a unanimous vote of the unified board shall be required to alter or remove Article 15. Although I did it before you voted on it.
So, so this is something that we felt strongly about.
That's a good example.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just saying.
Guilford, are you good? You talked about it. Yeah? Oh, okay, so, thank you, Ron, for doing that. So we voted on the articles to release them. We've now done it. We're at the stage where I think we should hear a motion from someone to approve these additions, but before we do that, I'd like to hear from the public. Is that all right? Really quickly? Okay, so does anyone from the public, I know Judy and Norman have put up her hand earlier, but does anyone else want to jump in and say something at this point? You will have an opportunity at the very end of the meeting again. No, just Jody, I guess. Okay.
I'll just reiterate what I have said meeting after meeting after meeting, and is that I still think you need to put in these articles of agreement that the town gets to vote on whether to close the school or whether to move their 7th and 8th graders. The communities around us that have made up their articles of agreement all have that in there. We're the only ones that's dragging our feet putting it in there. And I think the towns all need to vote. Thank you.
Could you just explain the nominating process to citizens here for the at-large?
The at-large.
The at-large.
Do you want to explain it?
I'll let you, because I'm not.
So, well,
Just so they're very clear.
the at-large, does everyone understand who the at-large members are? It's every member, every voter in the 4 towns, or perhaps 5 towns, but right now we're talking about 4 towns, would be voting for these at-large members. And saying the Putney representative, although I don't think we're calling it the Putney representative right now. What's the language we're using for that? The resident of Putney who is on the committee would only be voted on by Putney residents. Okay, does that make sense?
Putney
And
board
that's
member.
The Putney board, right.
And I think at that point, we can say it's a representative, because they're
Right, it's the
the
Putney board member.
Right. Well, I don't know if we're actually calling them that though. I would be interested in,
I
They're
personally,
board
if I could say, I'd have a problem with people, the members of the board for Putney, Guilford, Dummerston, even Brattleboro, being called representatives of that particular town, since the whole concept of this is that you're creating a school district that includes 4 towns, maybe 5 towns. And is sort of contrary to the whatever Act 46 is trying to achieve, a composite, a different type of school district than we are used to. And if you have the person from Putney or Dummerston called a representative of, as opposed to the representative from, I think it makes a world of difference.
yeah, that's why.
Yeah, generally at on the high school level, because this is similar to what we do at the high school level, generally we call ourselves board member. We're board members, and if we have to introduce ourselves, like I'm Ricky Davidson, I'm a board member from Brattleboro. So we say that we're a board member and where we're from. And I would imagine that in this configuration, that the at-large members would be, if I was an at-large member, I'd be Ricky Davidson, I'm a board member at-large. And I would just say at-large instead of what town I live in. And so we're not saying we don't say we're representative, say we're a board member, and then we say what town we're from, which then says what town we represent. That's generally how we say it at the high school level.
That's good, Craig.
Okay.
So I think, to clarify, the at-large would be nominated through the whole district.
So if I want to be an at-large member, I have to go out and get my petition, and I can go get my petition signed by anybody of all the towns in the
Right.
supervisor, or in the district, in the district.
But you would need more signatures because you're representing a larger body of people. So
I
you
think
would
it was
need more.
Yes.
Yeah, we'd have to go back to the minutes, but that's, yeah.
And then your names, any at-large candidates, their name is on the ballot as at-large and on the ballots of each town. So that's how they're selected.
Okay.
And in terms of nomination, you just take papers out.
And the voting is commingled for the at-large.
And Coleman.
So when you get done, if I took out my petition and my name is on the ballot in all these different towns, all we know at the end is the grand total. We don't know that X people from Dummerston voted for me or Guilford or whatever. It's an commingled vote.
Okay,
Some questions on that.
yeah. We're gonna vote in just a few minutes, but I do see more hands up. I'm gonna take 4 comments, because I saw 4 hands, and then we're gonna move on in the agenda. I don't know you, sir, but let's do Eric and you, and then you, sir, and then there are 2 people on the right.
Okay, Eric Pendell, Guilford. I'm on the Guilford School Board. Speaking of nominations, it's more of a question, I guess, but we've talked about nominating 3 citizens from each town for the leadership councils. Could you just describe how that process would look and what that would look like on the day, the voting day? We discussed this at our meeting, we didn't really.
So you mean on the ballot?
Is it a ballot? I guess, is it a ballot nomination, or is it done on the floor, or what?
Leadership council.
Yes, leadership councils. So how does that nomination, when does the nomination take process? Is it on a ballot?
So on page 10, it refers to 3 community members nominated at town meeting and shall be appointed by the district board to serve for 1-year terms. So I would imagine it's not like a petition for a school board seat, but it's a petition for an advisory council seat. Those would need to be made available. You would be voted in, they'd be nominated on the town meeting.
So it wouldn't be from the floor, it would actually be on the ballot?
On the ballot,
Okay,
yeah.
that's what our question was.
Does that say that? I thought you just said
It
it
doesn't
said
say
it
it,
was
it says nominating, that was kind of.
Yeah,
You have to have a process.
Well, I thought it was that what you were describing.
So-
For select board, you have a variety of,
Yeah, I think you can't
and
be.
you can't be on the
It
ballot.
can't be on the ballot.
So when
I
you
thought
say
it was
nominated,
nominated.
it could be from the floor or it could be by ballot. So I don't know if we really need to clarify.
So
What about-
by statute, I believe it cannot be by ballot because of the nature of the position. We can look into this again, but we have circled around this a couple
I
of
thought
times.
it would be nominated from the floor.
That's my understanding of what
Yes.
we got from the legal folks, is you have to be
Right.
nominated from the floor, so it would be I nominate, and then it would be a
Right.
town meeting.
So in the town of Putney, we do this, and I don't know whether other towns do it as well. We have the library is part of the town now, and so that comes from the floor, and we vote them
Right.
that way.
We do that in Brattleboro as well.
I would assume that all of the towns do.
Wouldn't the exact process of how we get those nominations be pretty much up to the towns to worry about? I
would-
think our only role needs to be that we need to get those nominations. And, you know,
Well,
our own, yeah, meaning the role of the,
I would suggest that it would be the new board's responsibility to suggest or to come up with a formula, because the leadership counts, or at least in the very beginning.
Except that honestly, the timeline, the way this lays out, it would be done at this March's town meeting.
Right.
But I think it's pretty concrete that a lot of us kind of already know people that are very interested in these positions. So doing the nomination from the floor, I think is very acceptable. And, I mean, I know I have 2 or 3 right now that are saying I would like to be on this committee. So I think it's very easily going to be transitioned.
So I would say that if it comes to being on the floor, we would need to make sure that the citizens are very well educated. We can't just, I mean, I'm just jumping in and we could go off track here, and I think depending on timing and what happens in the next month or 2, we need to put aside a meeting to discuss this in order to.
What I said was wrong though, right? Because if we're voting in March at town meeting, Brattleboro could actually do it at their town meeting. Because we're all gonna vote for a merger, provided this moves forward, like with the state board and all of that. But it would be at town meeting day where everybody would vote on it. Not at your town meetings, but by Australian ballot with no discussion at the town meeting, the merger itself. So we wouldn't know for sure during town meeting of all the rest of the outlying towns, that you have to create a leadership council.
We already have one,
So my question is, do we need to talk about this now, because right now we're talking about the language of the articles. Is this something that needs to be addressed in the articles?
I just confirm it with our legal counsel.
Okay.
What the procedure is.
So let's do that. Do you want to, and then I'm going to go back to you guys. I haven't forgotten.
The only thing I wanted to say about the election of the representatives, I'm sorry.
Leadership council.
Yeah, no, you're your worst enemy.
Step on my foot on that one. The people to the leadership council, all this body has to do is come up with a procedure that is used once. And then it goes to whoever this leadership council is. And then let them figure it out. From there, if we can have that flexibility built into the language we put in the article, we come up with the first time, after that you're on your own. We can come up with on your own.
The thing I think to clarify though is that the language here says that they are appointed by the district board. They are not elected by town meeting. They are nominated at town meeting. And so what's important there is that what if 10 people are nominated at town meeting and you only get 3? It's not, in the way I read our language says it is the district board that would then make the decision on the slate that came forward, at least as it's read right now.
Well, that's disconcerting, right?
I don't think that was the intent back then. I think
But
it was
that's
just-
what-
I know what
yeah.
you're
So-
saying, but I don't think that was the intent. I think it was that they couldn't be an elected position,
Right.
but the leadership council could appoint them, so we were trying to bridge that gap of the
Right.
legality of the two things.
So I think,
So let's rewrite the language.
well, or what we're all suggesting is that there's an actual procedure for the nomination so that Guilford sends 3 names and Putney sends 3, or whatever.
In which case, are they then, can we, and we may not be able to do this, but can we say that they are selected in town meeting? They are not appointed by the district board?
Wasn't
Because
there
No,
some
they
reason
have to,
it
they
had
have to be appointed by the
Yeah,
district
yeah.
board, because that's,
It's a committee.
yeah, we
Just-
can't create an election. The only power to do this comes from that
That was
appointment.
our whole problem. So, but we could say that at town meeting, 3 people are selected
and then
Then
appointed by.
appointed by the district board. I think that was our intent in the language. and somehow it
That's
didn't
what we
work
said,
out.
and shall be appointed. We
Okay.
changed the language
Intentionally.
intentionally so that
So
they
3
said
community
and
members
shall be.
nominated at town meeting and shall be appointed by the district
But
board.
we need something stronger than nominated, because nominated implies.
Well,
not
Nominated
selected.
by their communities
By
and
their-
selected at.
yes.
That's better, I like
Can
that.
we go with that? Does that work for everyone?
Yes.
Okay, so we have 2, sir, do you still have something to say? And then the 2 over here. Yeah.
George Charvel, West Brattleboro. Probably a day late, a dollar short, but some of us were talking about this over the holiday, and the leadership council, and there were some people concerned, well, what will it do? Does it have any power? And one idea that came up would be to write in to things that the leadership councils have a direct role in the annual performance reviews of the superintendent and assistant superintendent. Some people thought that might really pull that together, both the leadership councils and the district, and give them a very formal input into the process.
I think we did that, I'm just remembering in our very beginning when we put this together, that was certainly the intent. And I think under legal counsel, that got pulled out because it was in a hiring situation, that was not the responsibility of the leadership council. And we tried really hard. We
Yeah,
can
I
come back
think
to
there was a
it, but-
concern about having unelected people dealing with personnel matters like
Right.
that.
Right.
But we also
that time.
acknowledged, I thought, that those conversations and information is collected and consolidated anyway in the process.
Under our recommendations, we do have what you're talking about written in.
Do you want to read that language?
Yeah. Specifically, make recommendations to superintendent and principal for school-specific practices and procedures related to the district policies. Recommendations could include but not limit to facility, technology use, acquisitions, and school-based activities.
It's the next one.
Yeah, consistent with the state statute and procedure established by the superintendent to serve on the hiring committee for school staff and faculty. So it is written in, and if you can go to the school, the SU
And the one
website.
right below it, Alice,
Yes.
Coordinate and review individual school performance data with this district office.
Office. So, yeah. Pretty clear.
Who on this side? Inez and who else? Just so I know. Oh,
I
go
will.
ahead.
I'm Mary Casey, Brattleboro. I notice that people are going back and forth between 4 towns and 5 towns. Just for clarity's sake, it's my understanding that right now there's still 5 towns because Vernon is here. And their intent is to file suit. Are they no longer participating in the process?
Okay, so we go back and forth between, I can't answer a lot of those questions because I don't know anything about it in terms of this.
I think it's part of keeping the public kind of informed. The clarity at this point before March is just really
Right, so what we're
essential.
talking about are the articles that we're looking at right now,
And you mentioned that there were now 4 towns.
and there have been for a long time.
So Vernon in or out?
Vernon is not in these current articles of agreement that we're
Okay.
discussing right now,
When Vernon asked,
by their choice. And-
right, when Vernon left the table and said that they no longer wanted to be a part of this back in March, we readjusted and said we have to respect what Vernon has asked to do, which was to not be a part of the merger. And at that point, they were putting into process their legal steps to their vote in August, which then forced our vote in December.
Right.
However, at the moment, next on the agenda, we have to discuss again what to next do.
So-
So that's why people
Yeah,
are saying
okay.
4, or maybe we talk about doing 5. But for the very moment, the articles are written without Vernon.
And Vernon made that choice knowing that we would go forward this way. It was in fact, one of their intent was to allow this process to go forward by polling. So it's not like.
I'm just thinking
No,
of, you're gonna have a lawsuit filed. And if Vernon's not in your articles, that may be problematic.
I'm not too concerned about that, but if that were to be the case, I'm sure we would talk about it at length, but no one's suggesting that we would need to worry about that.
I don't think there's any lawsuit yet. I'm not
And I don't know who would file a lawsuit, but.
Against the well, the rep at the informational meeting said that's what Vernon would do if they were not allowed to withdraw.
Oh, that's true. Mike Hebert did
They
say.
haven't done it, but you.
Right,
you
right, but that-
vote
but-
here
But
perhaps
That's a
it's
different
a-
issue.
I believe he was referring to a suit to the state for their ability to keep their school choice and leave the supervisory union. It wasn't against this body.
Right, not against you personally, but see, if they're not included in the articles anywhere, because you're respecting them, and then they're not allowed to not be here, that might be a problem.
They actually chose not to be here because.
I know they did.
Well, no, but they've chosen not to be on the Act 46 and attend meetings because if they're here sitting at this table discussing it, it's an implied agreement to be part of it. And so that they're able to retain their school choice, they've chosen to not participate at all at these meetings as well.
Right.
And fundamentally going forward, they cannot join with the rest of us under the auspices of Act 46 without changing. Their structure is fundamentally different than the rest of the members.
I get
Yeah,
that.
okay.
Okay, thank you. One more person, and then we're going to move on.
I just wanted to point out.
Can you say who you are?
Inez McGillian from Dummerston. I just wanted to point out, Mark said something earlier that sort of confused me, but upon reading this language, I think that we're still at the point of what I understood 2 meetings ago when this body voted to adopt a representation that involved representatives from all the towns and only 2 at large. And I just reread the article, and it seems to actually reflect that these are actual legal representatives elected by the electorate to represent the electorate. And whether you call them towns or communities, a rose is still a rose by any other name. So unless my understanding is incorrect, what we have in the December 1st articles, and is there a new version being circulated? after
I
today?
have it updated December 15th, but I think Article 8 and 9 are the same.
Have not
So
changed.
that one
Okay.
sentence
It's
changed.
just, yeah.
My understanding is that Article 8 provides for legal representatives for each town, 4 for Brattleboro, 1 from each small town, and 2 at large. Now, the statute, the study committee statute actually requires that each town have a legal representative. Whether you call it that or not is irrelevant, because you have people being elected by and from the electorate. It's a representative whether you call it that or not.
Right, so the word representative is confusing because it's who you're representing. You might be a rep, I mean, we could dig into the
Anybody
semantics,
who's
but you
elected.
certainly understand where Mark is coming from. And so do you
Well, I'm
think, does it work?
wondering if you
Yeah.
carefully avoided using the word representative in the hopes that sometime down the road, you might be able to argue that these aren't true representatives in each town, because that's what each town wants, and it's what the statute requires. So is that what I'm hearing from Mark and from you?
No, what you're hearing from Mark is basically the fact that Act 46 is trying to create a new concept, okay? I would like to hope the person
Can
elected,
you let him finish?
I would like to
please?
hope that the person elected from Brattleboro or Dummerston or Guilford will have the same concern for any of the other schools in the district as they do for the school that's sitting around the corner from it.
I would hope.
To use the term representative is sort of biased towards that one particular school from that one particular town. And in my thinking, and I may be wrong and I may be in the minority, but you know, if that's going to happen, then why the hell are we going through this mess? Because that's what we had before.
Well, because each town currently has 5 representatives on their
Yes.
boards, and so the towns want.
But they all have a district of one school. This new district is going to have X number of schools.
But Mark, I agree with you in sentiment and emotion, that I hope that each board member would think of everyone. But in terms of legality, somebody who is elected by and from the electorate is a legal representative of that town.
This would be a great time to have one of the people who came up with this legislation sitting someplace in this audience and explaining the concepts that they had when they passed it.
I think we're getting a little off.
Yeah, I think this isn't really benefiting the
I think it's the same
conversation.
concept as in Union High School.
Yes.
You're voted by your town, you're representative of that town, but you're on the Union District
I
Board.
slightly disagree. I think the easier example to come up with is the Brattleboro Town School Board, which has 3 elementary schools, but is governed by people who don't necessarily come from any one of those schools. The Brattleboro Union High School is a little bit different in that all the people that are there have kids going to one same building. The Brattleboro Town School Board is basically the same as what we're doing here, and then we have more buildings.
So I don't think any of this conversation is going to develop in us changing the language. I get the sense that all of us are comfortable with this language. And thank you, we're going to move on. Is there a motion to approve these
I move
changes?
that we approve the changes to Article 7, 8, 9, and 15 as discussed.
Is any further discussion? No? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No abstentions? Okay, thanks, guys.
Would you need a vote to send it up again?
Well, we don't send it up until we know we can send it up. So that's the next question. So the next thing on the agenda, we have 2 topics: review the Act 46 timing and financial constraints based on what's going on now.
Yes, I do.
And then discuss expanded approach to community understanding, read compliance, small school sustainability, which we care so much about, and educational equity and opportunity. And Jill got for us 2 quotes for potential video. She and I were going to do it, but at this stage we're now running so late because we don't know exactly what's happening. It does behoove us to get someone else to do it. But let's talk about that after we talk about timing. Ron, do you want to review timing with us?
Well, I have a new calendar, and this is with an assumption that if Dummerston was to vote, we're now looking at April. Yeah.
Okay, in April for what?
For the merger vote.
So it's not gonna happen town meeting.
It can't.
You got it. Okay, so today is the 4th.
Just think of it as more quality time together.
We get to know each other even better.
This is good food. If you keep this up for the next few minutes,
All right, so Rob.
Yeah, so if you look at the top right-hand corner,
Do you have more of those? I didn't make it.
They're coming around.
No, we only have one for all of us.
Okay, we'll share one.
Oh, Richard's.
Yeah, I have extra.
Oh, Richard has some. Here we go.
Never mind, we're good now. Some of them not even nice.
Okay. Ron.
so, if you look at the calendar, January 12th is the deadline for any sort of petition to revote in Dummerston. And so there's a 30-day window. I'm now up on the top right-hand corner. That brings you from 1/12 to 1/22. 10-day public information meeting after 2/11. That brings a vote to, let's see, is that February 20th? I think it's supposed to be the 21st. So it's colored at the 21st. So that would be the timing of a reconsideration vote in Dummerston. And then what that creates, if that was favorable, if it wasn't, then you have to reconsider the whole what you're doing. If it was favorable, then you start a 40-day, 30-day window, March 2nd through March 12th, and that brings the earliest merger vote to April 11th.
So has the state hasn't really even looked at us yet.
Well, they've seen our articles of agreement. They know they've been revised and revisioned. They know the vote turnout from the December vote, 13th vote. I think that they think there may be a reconsideration, so they're just kind of holding with us.
But we still have to go up to the.
Yeah. And you know, I mean, the first thing is if nothing happens January 12th, in terms of the petition, required numbers, then you have to reconsider what you're doing. If there is a petition, then this is the schedule that you follow, and then go from there. What's that?
And it's assuming a vote to release Vernon.
Right.
Any more to discuss on this?
The town clerks looked at these dates, we felt comfortable with it, we wanted to make sure that, you know, thinking about what their work is related to this, they thought the April made sense.
Town clerk stuff?
Yes.
All the town clerks.
So all towns will revote?
No.
No, but just for the
Oh,
merger
for the
vote.
April date, okay, I was
Yeah.
thinking of the revote still, I'm like, no, sorry,
no.
sorry.
No, just for the April merger vote,
Okay.
if it occurred.
Okay, I'm going to take one comment from the public. Vernon, yeah.
Deputy Vernon.
So I just want to ask specifically, because I haven't been hearing a lot of what's going on, is Dummerston trying to get a petition going for a revote?
Yes, there is a petition circulating.
There is? Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, it was prepared by the supervisory union.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I wasn't going to open it up,
Central
but
office.
I will go ahead. Just let's try to keep it short, okay? Guys, you haven't spoken yet. Yeah.
My name is Marisa Nielsen. I live in Brattleboro. I'm wondering about the revote at Dummerston and the legality of doing a revote with one town and not all of the towns, and if that's a possibility for all of the rest of the towns and how that works.
That is something you would, any town could re-vote on this.
30 days.
Yeah.
And it's okay just for one town
Yes.
to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
But if any other town wants to, they have to go through the same petition process and get a certain number by 30 days out from the vote. So they have until January 12th.
To get the petition in, yeah.
Yeah, Andy Davis. I just had someone there to clarify, because we're getting, March is pretty close. Or what you're saying is that the earliest there could be a vote in the district on the merger. The very earliest would be April 11th, which would mean that this town meeting is already off the table. The reason I was asking is because the other day I got a notice from the town clerk about when petitions were due to be on the ballot on town meeting day. And there's a whole nother issue here about people running for the unified board that I haven't heard talked about. And so anyway, but this now means that for town meeting 2017 is a moot point.
Right.
There won't be candidates for 2017.
At the March?
On March, so the idea is if the merger vote is moved to April 11th, people would be filling out paperwork to apply to be a candidate for, if the merger vote were to take place on April 11th, and I know there's a lot of contingent things here,
Yeah.
but if it were to be moved to that earliest possible date, that would be the vote where the towns would vote for or against the merger and have a slate of candidates. When on this calendar would those candidates need to have their petitions in to express?
March 6th. March 6th.
Okay, March 6th. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and we've had to do that every time we calibrate the dates. One more thing from Inez, and then
Maybe it's just confusing language, but I was confused by what's here at the top right of the page. It says, January 10, Dummerston Board approves a revote article. So I'm confused. Has the petition hasn't been presented to the board yet?
No.
And so how would they already have an article drafted on that date? Aren't they the board and the entity that has to draft that article? And then my next question is, it says 40 to 30 day window and it states dates. Isn't it up to the Dummerston School Board to schedule the vote on a date that it finds convenient? That's how I read that statute.
So I think this is a suggested schedule based on statute that we are aware of.
Yeah, the statute doesn't say that the 40 days runs from the date the petition is presented. I have a feeling, and I want to look at the statute again, but if the board has a certain window of time in which to schedule the vote, and it's not dictated by the study committee or by...
So, as I said, this is a suggested schedule based on what our understanding of dates and times are. I'm sure the Dummerston Board will be talking about this at length, and so you can have that conversation with them.
But has an article been drafted already by someone?
So this is a suggested schedule.
This is just if there were a petition with the number
Well,
of...
it's a yes or no question. Has an article already been drafted?
So you can ask the Dummerston
If you're talking
Board.
about a petition, yes.
No, I'm asking about
I don't know what
a
an
revote. Your thing here is some sort of revote article. Has anybody drafted a revote article already?
No.
Yes or no?
Not to my knowledge.
No.
Okay. Well, not to whose knowledge? I couldn't.
Anyone.
That was Christina.
Dummerston Town School Board Vice Chair, and I have not seen.
I asked the study committee and the administration. Has anybody drafted a revote?
I know the article has not been drafted,
Okay.
because we are not presuming the outcome of that petition. If on January 10th, or prior to January 10th, we know there are 85 people that signed the petition, we will generate the warning from my office, the Dummerston School Board,
Isn't it up to
as we have
Dummerston
done
Board?
for all of the warnings.
Which I've always objected to, because it's the board's problem.
So I'm not, as chair, gonna allow this conversation to keep going. I would suggest that you have this conversation with the Dummerston School Board next
I
week.
think the public has a right to know that this study committee has been acting like a super board.
No, thank you, Inez, we're moving on. All right. Let's go and talk about, you want us to talk about the video?
Sure.
All right, so Jill has seen the need to further communicate with folks about all of these things, and she has 2 quotes.
So my feeling is, to people sitting out there and to all of us here, that when I walk around and I try to talk to people about it, they say, what is Act 46? It is such a complex issue. And right now, the only way people can get any information notwithstanding a few very loyal members that have come to basically every meeting. And those of us who sit on this committee that had to be here at every meeting. The only way to really do that and to see how this keeps moving forward and changing is to sit down and go through the BCTV 2-hour meetings for forever. And it's really not user-friendly in the least for people to understand. So my vision and what I've asked for the quotes is about 2 or 3 minutes of an introduction video that says, this is the law, thanks for your interest, and now follow whichever video really is what the topic is you want to talk about. And then probably 10 or 15, 5 to 10 at the absolute most length videos, minutes, of 10 or 15 of those of the topic. So they would be something like, what's the story with Vernon? Like we were asking, people are asking today, or how did leadership council members become leadership council members? Or what is the process? What changes? And a lot of this, the PowerPoint presentation that I did for the end of August Brattleboro group, some of those types of questions would be in there. But I'm firmly convinced that people like to be able to click on a link and look at it, hear it, and not have to wade through a million things of paper or hours of video. So I asked, given that sort of parameter, I asked for 2 quotes. I have one quote that would be for $5,000 to $10,000, and I have one quote that would be for up to $500. So, and then also I asked the Donna Russo-Savage exactly, and I could find that email here, but how exactly we have to do this, because we don't have funding through the grant of that pays for consultants and such to help us with the study committee, does not allow for hiring someone to help put together an explanation of that. So Frank gave me some ideas of where to get that, although I don't know if the supervisory union budget, if we're talking about 10,000, we might want to look at one thing. If we're talking about 500, maybe it's
I think we're talking, I'm leaning towards the 500.
Free is
Well, free would be Alice and I, and quite honestly, I think it's beyond my capabilities to find more time for that. And I'm actually not a videographer.
Yeah, I think if we can get it done for under 500, then we should get someone to do it.
So Ron, are you feeling like, you've seen these communications with Frank and I, are you feeling like we need to do that?
As opposed to?
Finding the money in the supervisory union?
Yeah.
What was
first?
We need to do this other, the vote.
The 500.
No, do we need to go through this other procedure of a motion and approving where the money comes from, or are we going to take it out of the supervisory union budget?
Well, I think what I read from his response, that you've already done that. Any of the additional costs that can't be covered by the study committee grant has come out of the supervisory union budget.
Yes.
So you've done that. If you want to confirm that again, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Right.
Yes. So I think what we would want is a vote from this group saying that we support the idea of using supervisory union funds to create a video, not to exceed.
I guess I thought you'd done that.
I'm asking you.
But we're not actually appropriating supervisory union funds.
We don't have that authority.
So my suggestion was that if we all agree or disagree that the $500 is worth spending on this, and then I send the board chair of WSESU and finance committee.
Frank's answer was actually this. Next steps are to confirm that each district is willing to fund the present informational materials to the electorate at the expense of the district. Statute 16 BSA 560.
Even if it's only 500?
Per Donna's guidance, or to agree that the WSESU should continue to fund the public information expense.
That's
right.
That's what I'm referring to.
I object to the supervisory union or you guys spending all this money on something that I don't agree with. I think it needs to go back to the electorate. And I know that if we spend over $25,000 on this study committee, it has to go back to the electorate. But you keep putting money in other places.
Okay.
And that's why I want an accounting of what's going on.
So you've already asked for that.
I know, but I haven't done it yet.
Well, you just asked for it an hour ago, so I think I'm not gonna do it right now. But if we spend this 500, I will make sure that Frank puts that in the numbers, remind him to put that level of detail in that list. Okay.
So Joe,
yeah.
can you read that second recommendation again?
Sure. If each district is willing to fund the present informational materials to the electorate at the expense of the district, 16 VSA 563 per Donna's guidance, or to agree that the WSESU should continue to fund the public information expenses.
It's the second half of that that makes the sense.
That the WSESU should continue to fund public information expenses.
So, if I can maybe recap. So if we, as a group, formally ask Alice to ask the WSESU Finance Committee to fund this, and then have it go to them, or them decide yes or no to that, up to not to exceed $500. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because we ultimately the ones who sign the warrants for particular expenses. You know, categories are already set by the union district, so that's.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only concern I have is that you've already done that when you did like the mailings for Vernon and all of that. I mean, are you gonna, every time there's a new item, was it back? I guess my point is that you've had this agreement with the supervisory union board that, you know, funding is gonna come from the SU.
Yeah,
Now, if you were gonna do $10,000, I'd be saying, wait a minute, that's not what we're talking about.
But ultimately, isn't it the finance committee's then decision, maybe it is the decision at that point, who's been instructed by the supervisory union board to make these decisions? And so why not, that group meets periodically, why not have them be the ones, since they sign the
right,
warrant?
so why don't we do I'm gonna review what the pattern has been, and then talk about this 500 with them, and see if this process makes sense. We're not talking about a huge amount of money here. It's very minuscule. Yeah.
Where would this video be viewed? How would it be viewed?
We put on the website, the
Our
WSESU.
website?
Yeah.
Yeah,
On our website, do we also have the Act 46 articles?
Yeah.
Yeah, right now it says Act 46, and then it has every single meeting minutes and any documents, but I mean, you really have to know what you're doing when you look at it to know what you're looking for.
No offense, but it sounds redundant. And the public, if it is a curious public willing to educate themselves, they should go to the website and read.
You can't educate yourself
I was
easily.
thinking this exact same thing, Mike.
Have you guys gone to
I think
the
we have
website?
already done
We're here right now.
kind of outreach.
We're looking at it right now.
And is it
Richard,
easy, Alice, to find things?
Richard, and then I'll.
I don't think
Hold
that
on
is
now.
challenging.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I actually, I think I agree in part with both sides, in the sense that I'm not sure, there's a lot of information on the WSE, the supervising union website. I'm not sure many people go there for information. I wonder, given that all of our schools, I assume, have electronic newsletters, that one of the ways to get information out would be a different method than having, it could be posted here, but then if we're gonna spend money and do something different, it should have a wider distribution, and it should get at families who are. Social media, you know, our Facebook pages, we have a Facebook page, places that will promote people to actually see it. And frankly, the wonderful thing about Facebook is then there can actually be a discussion
And then
underneath
our
that.
forums within our communities, I mean, that's, if we can get people there, that's huge.
And I think Joe was just suggesting that was the place to start. I think that something like this could go.
Well, once you have a video, you can
You
post
can
it
post it
everywhere.
all sorts of places, yeah.
So you
I
just
think
set
we
it
have to
up.
be careful about using Facebook because of open meeting violations
Right.
as a concept. I think
I don't think we can engage in
Yeah, I don't see how that's
Basically.
relevant with,
But the
because you wouldn't be
community-
having any discussion.
Well, he said we could have a discussion.
No,
on
the
Facebook.
community could have a,
The community could
community
have
could have a discussion.
Yes.
We don't. Okay. We cannot.
We don't.
We cannot.
We cannot.
Okay.
Okay. Hold on a sec. Do we want to take a vote on this, or I don't think we need to, but I'm certainly, we can go ahead and do that. Okay. I'm going to take a quick question from the public, and hey.
Hi, I'm Kim Rock. I'm from Brattleboro, and I haven't said anything, but I'm speaking on behalf of just as an audience member. What you've just talked about, probably the most positive thing I've heard all night. It addresses Andy's about engaging the community, about your question. You would also include Dummerston, where they stand, so that would be part of this. This video is, what I'm trying to say is where we are at. People don't know that. People aren't present. People aren't here. People don't know all the little parts. So having something like she's talking about, and then you can break it down to where you want, is huge. And if you had it ready by town meeting day, you could actually have something at town meetings through all these towns, not the videos, but with this information, so that people, most people in this town, whether you go vote or not, town meeting day is just, everybody's talking. It's one of the biggest, and the biggest communicator in the world is by word of mouth. And there you have it. I think that's a great, basically, platform that Jill just, suggested. But also, I want to say thank you for bringing up both everybody's side, because everybody has a place here. And so thank you all. I have to leave to go to a hockey game, the last part. But thank you very much. It's a lot of hard work, and I'm just very grateful. Thank you so much.
So, I think the consensus is that we're going to go ahead and do this. I would suggest that a couple of us get together and make it happen. Jill's already done a bunch of work on this. I'll jump into that. Is there anyone, can we have, obviously we can't have a quorum, but is it okay if 1, 2, or 3 of us work on making this happen quickly?
Yep.
Yeah?
Did anyone else want to be a star of the video?
Well, I think
we can recruit people as needed.
We can take footage from meetings and that sort of thing. All right.
I mean, I'll help if
Okay.
you need it.
So we really can have only 3 of us on it, okay? If
You need a motion?
if you can do a, I don't think we need one, but you can certainly make one if you want. Okay, so that's really the major agenda item on that line that I was interested in. Is there anything else that we want to? The approach to the community and understanding. Okay.
But,
yeah.
I think since it's unlikely that we would have a merger vote now on, very unlikely that we would have a merger vote at town meeting, I think it would be a great opportunity to have information panels. We aren't voting on it, so we can have stuff there. So it would be a great opportunity to get paper information out.
Yep. Facts.
Yeah, so that would be something that we could work on.
Do we want to work, so can we jump into the schedule first and then go back to that? So are you suggesting, I would like to make the next meeting, schedule that right now, maybe the next meeting or 2. Ron, do you want to make a proposal for those?
Well, looking at January 12th, you could piggyback with your board meeting.
Okay.
We have a meeting, special meeting that night already in Guilford.
Well,
Yeah.
Thursday.
You weren't there last night at our meeting.
So we'll know about the petition by the 12th. So that actually would be a good time to have a meeting. What?
Do this. So we may not.
Right.
Well, but we'll probably have a sense of whether the numbers are, does that make sense? The numbers are there, and if that's something that the community wants to do?
Sounds like Guilford has a meeting that night.
Yeah, we have a meeting that night,
So it's a conflict.
yeah, and that's to go over a presentation for a special meeting.
Yeah, so you guys, if you want to come.
Is that Thursday?
Can you host us?
John's
John here?
John?
John just left.
Yeah.
Excellent.
He can host, just left the building.
Okay.
What day are we talking
The
about?
next Thursday.
Yeah.
Well, actually, what time? I guess I'm still stuck.
We could have it at one.
I can do that.
Could everyone, who can nominate the 12? 2 people? I think we should go ahead and have it because we have representatives and
What time?
I'm figuring that out right now.
Well, they have a meeting 6:30 to 7.
Okay. So, and if we, well, is that also, I just want to make sure that if we are having a vote in April, that we do whatever we can to start communicating with folks.
19th and 26th are both
Sorry, I know this is a little boring, guys.
What about the 7th, we do a Tuesday?
That's open. The 10th is the only one that I have.
17th? We could switch our time meeting over. 17th in Putney,
What time?
6 o'clock. What? Yeah.
What time? 7?
6. Okay, everyone? 6.
We're back in Putney?
We are.
Back in Putney.
All right.
On the 17th.
Okay, do we want to, I guess we won't schedule the following meeting now because we don't know exactly what's going on.
I think it would be good to schedule it, get it on the
Tentative.
calendar, because that way it won't, it won't get filled up with other slots.
So-
And then we can always cancel.
January 26th?
There's a diversity night in
Okay.
Brattleboro town.
You guys suggest a night for us.
So if we looked at the week of the 3rd, or the, second?
Is that too far?
Thursday the 7th.
We
have a meeting today.
We're on the 2nd of February.
So how are we,
Monday, the 2nd of February, is what
I think that would be, we're all getting through budget stuff, and it's before pre-town meetings, it might be smarter to go with that.
does that work for everyone? Is that, do you? So you want us to schedule it?
Well,
We're going to schedule it, and then if Dummerston doesn't, well,
Yeah,
at
so
some
let's
point we have to make a
what's the
decision.
25th look like?
You didn't like the 2nd?
I can do the 25th.
25th.
I do 25th.
Okay, the 25th is going to be tentatively held.
I generally can't do Wednesdays, but
Ricky, can you do that
Yeah, I
night?
can do that.
Okay, so we're,
Where?
Guilford?
I'll just put it in. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to definitely do the 17th and we might do the 25th.
At Guilford.
Yeah, the 17th at Putney, the 25th at Guilford,
What time at Guilford?
6 o'clock. Okay, anything else, guys, before I open it up to everyone? We're good? All right, it's 8 o'clock. Does anyone have anything they want to add? Give us, so how many people? Just, okay, so just one, that's Andy Davis.
Earlier in the evening, we talked about the Leadership Council and that process of, there was some discussion of the language about how people would be nominated. And the Leadership Councils are in the articles by school, not by town. So there would be a leadership council, for example, for each of the elementary schools in Brattleboro. It says that they would be nominated at town meeting. So I'm just curious how, just getting this off the ground, if it goes through, if there's a vote on April 11th, there's not another town meeting until the following March. So how do you envision with this new calendar, and that's also the earliest possible time, because the state could take these proposals and discuss them for a long time. They have that ability.
So chances are
So I'm just curious how, the articles say that it would be done at town meeting.
So I'm going to interrupt you just because I've
That's my question. Could someone clarify that?
Yeah, I already wrote a note for myself to ask Ron to talk to our legal counsel about that.
Okay.
One suggestion I would make is that at town meeting, we will elect school board representatives for towns. And it would make sense potentially in that first year, since we won't have another meeting to do the leadership council, that the that the unified school board now could select from those individuals who are not on the unified school board if someone were to run for that, but they're already been elected by the town to serve in that capacity. That might be for 1 year, it might be a way to handle it.
Can I sing a song for you, Richard?
Could you?
Just thinking Hotel California.
Oh.
But, yes, I think that's,
But you have to run.
that will be addressed.
Yeah, we have to address that.
Yeah. Okay, so anyone else before Jody Normando wants her last moment? Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Andy. Go ahead, Jody.
Well, I'll just finish up again with the fact that if you're talking to your legal counsel, you might as well be talking to the state board because he's the counsel for the state board. So I think it's a little bit, I don't know what the word is, fishy, a little bit conflict of interest. I find it just unnerving.
All right. I'm not concerned.
Well, I know you're not.
If there's an issue, if there's a concern on the board, this committee, we can talk about it either tonight or at a following meeting. Okay? Anything else? No, we're good? Is there a second? Anyone want to talk about that? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.